Vara is a next generation platform for Web3 applications built for scalability, security, the architecture enable parallel data processing. This is kind of the most important feature, providing to the blockchain really scalable solutions, but also giving developers the tools to build advanced flexible applications that surpass the limitations of traditional smart contracts. And now writing smart contracts is even easier with the new AI power generator tool that we have. It's a pleasure for me to be here. Thank you so much.
Nice. Just a quick question. Is it actually like intended for non-developers or is it just assisting actual devs?
It helps non-developers to create an MVP with this vibe coding tool. But of course, it's better to have some background to improve the application. Yeah.
Okay, very cool. I'm actually in Cannes. I don't know if anyone else is here. I know Yannick, you didn't manage. You guys are very busy with the TGE, but it's hot here and everyone is still talking about AI, agents, agent-to-agent collaboration. Yesterday was a massive AI summit at the Carlton here, so there's lots of stuff happening. Yannick, I actually missed it. Did you introduce yourself?
No, I don't think so. But I'm very happy to hear that. Actually, that is somewhat surprising, but also not surprising at the same time, I suppose. Right? Hi guys, welcome. My name is Yannick. I am the founder and currently the acting CEO of Swarm Network. You guys probably know what we do. If not, then feel free to ask some questions regarding whatever your question is in the comment section below. Doesn't just have to be about Swarm, can be about any of the projects that we have, these amazing people from speaking here today. At the end of the session, we'll try to dive in some questions. I also have some questions from the community that some people DM to me, so we'll be diving into that. But Marco, let me know, bro, like, what was the, first of all, what's the vibe like? And what is the, is there a new kid on the block, or is there a new concept on the block? Are TEs finally really taking off, or what's the narrative like?
Hey man, TEs have been taking off for a while now. Honestly, at every single event I go to, there is a presentation about TEs. And it makes sense. I mean, everyone is obviously working on something in the agent space. I mean, I'm obviously talking within my bubble of AI and crypto, so I do see most of these agent projects. And they are now finally building these agents that have utility. They're not just chatbots on Twitter. And those need some form of way to verify whatever they are doing. And TEs are a very practical solution. So yes, even near the main presentation that they did at, what was it? Agents Unplugged from Autonomous. The presentation was also about TEs, how they are utilizing multiple TE agents to orchestrate some, I don't know, didn't matter the use case, but for them also the big solution to the trust problem of agents was trust execution environments. So it's definitely top of mind wherever you go within the agent space. I don't think there is a new kid on the block though. I mean, Zero Gravity, Zero G, some call it OG, is actually spending lots of money on these events. I hope it pays off for them. So I guess they would be, in my opinion, the new kid on the block, since they're still on testnet, so people are experimenting with it. I have yet to do, so I don't have a strong opinion about it.
And besides AI, like, what is the other narrative that has been mainly there? Is it DeFi?
It's actually the Robinhood announcement was here, right? So
Right,
everyone
right.
was talking about RWAs, now trading stocks. Everyone was talking like, hey, why is Arbitrum not taking off? And then it was like, yeah, Arbitrum doesn't benefit, or like the Arbitrum token doesn't benefit at all from it because all transactions are still on ETH, etc. But people are very confused why the market isn't reacting, because it is very cool news and they have managed actually to build this with a very cool UX. I don't know if you've guys seen the videos.
Yeah, I saw it. So maybe you can recap real quick, like what that announcement was about. I suppose not everybody listening here understands what that's about.
So they offered a Web2-like experience to trade actual TradFi stocks on the Arbitrum chain. It's very little clicks. You don't even feel any wallet integrations, etc. and just feels very natural. I have yet to try it, to be honest, because it was an exclusive event where they presented it. They had like extra shuttles to bring you there. It was a bit outside of the city. So I'm also just kind of answering based on the videos I've seen. But I mean, it's just super bullish to see them actually utilizing crypto as the way to transfer these assets and tokenize them.
Yeah, I agree. Well, let's get into the agent juice, shall we? I think that we can start off with the first kind of like topic here, which I would like to address. But I will go last in terms of addressing, um, which is why is the whole world not deploying agents yet? And maybe I'm wrong. Maybe the whole world is deploying agents, but we're just not seeing it. I would like to hear from everybody's experience and everybody's encounters with this new, like wave of innovation. I will add some context here. The reason why I wanted to talk about it was because I saw a post today, a news article, and it's been circulating several outlets, and it was about a company, and I think the company is called Ondo with an O, Andou or something like that. And they were boasting that they created a tool that was able to create instant MVPs using agentic workflows for businesses, and that they had already automated more than 11 million businesses globally. And they raised like, I don't know, like $20 million. But then actually when I went into it and when I was like checking out their website, it was just like a load of garbage, and it didn't make sense at all. So I started to dig into it a little bit, and I found a couple of valuations of a couple of companies that were kind of boasting the same thing, but without any tech. Like there was like literally nothing. So I want to hear from you guys, like how real are we currently? Like how real are we with AI agents? And like why is the world not building agents at a mass scale yet?
Just go ahead, Luis.
Luis, I think you're
Luis?
still you're mute.
Yeah. Can you hear me, right?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Thank you. Okay. Yeah. Different topics here to mention because I guess it's not only one. I do agree that not 100% of people are building AI agents. First, I will say that because the education, lack of awareness and education, it's an important topic to mention here because many people and organizations around the world are still not fully aware of what AI agents are. Like, for example, my friends or colleagues in different areas, not only blockchain, they don't know pretty well what's the difference between an AI agent and AI model. They are pretty sure what is ChatGPT, for example, or Cloud or Grok, but that's like I will say the one of the main tools that they use nowadays in this AI era. But so when we talk about automation, when we talk about different other tools that trigger events, which basically we enter into the AI agent world, it's not like something really clear for them. If they are not into the technology, then I guess that it's important to continue with the education because this is always one of the key features, key elements to keep in mind when we want to bring adoption into one technology and different other elements. I will mention more, but I prefer just to keep in this. And if we have time, maybe we can add more. Thank you.
So I have a question because you just said like people that don't understand the technology, right? So from your perspective, would you say that the main barrier to adoption is that it's just very daunting for people to build agents and maybe even like, for example, like swarms or multi-agent, like systems, because like it's still very technical and not accessible to the average person?
Yeah, absolutely. Also, the words that you just mentioned are really important. Accessible. Around the world, 30% of the population don't have internet or good internet connection. So at this point, I guess that we are removing these people to join into the AI agents technology because they don't even have the most important component when you talk about infrastructure, which is internet. And then, yes, we need to have more elements to solve in order to bring more people building or even using, not only building, using this AI agents technology. But yeah, I guess that are different things that we need to solve in order to bring more people. But we are into this direction.
Roland, go ahead.
Yes, I do. I do actually agree with the point of view from Louis. So education is actually very key there. Awareness is not there that much. But the second thing I would actually mention is cost, because I'm from a tech background. I'm a software engineer myself by training. And when Cursor AI came out, it was amazing. I tried it, and then I even paid for the pro version. I built some small stuff, MVPs and stuff. And then I talked to some former colleagues about this software, how to use it. It has agents inside, it has this and that. But when the basic features, of course, are free, but then if you want to have advanced features, you have to pay. This is only usage, not even building AI. So this is just usage of AI, and this cannot be completely free because there's also cost into building AI, and there's cost into hosting AI agents. So this whole cost, it is actually spreading across the whole industry. And right now, it is not low enough for everybody to be just building and deploying AI. So even those who are already aware of these AI agents, AI workflows, and what AI can do, they still don't have maybe the financial resources that are needed to deploy them within their own company and even for their own businesses. So I think cost is one of the major like obstacles. And this cost comes all the way from the hardware, right? So the hardware is actually improving. NVIDIA is doing a good job on that. And then for the software, for the companies that are actually building platforms to like develop and deploy AI agents, so they have to keep running, and they are just among the few in the world. So it just pumps up the cost, and this cost now reflects on all the users, and that's why even up to now, even ChatGPT is not free, right? It's not completely free. So I think cost is a major obstacle, and but the good news is that cost will be going down, lower and lower as we have more progress and more competition in this field. That's my take on that.
I love all of those points, and I think we have to differentiate a bit. I think in like startup environments, I think everyone that's currently in the Y Combinator or past batches, I'm very sure they are using agents. This can be for their socials, for any kind of marketing outreach. This can be for business outreach, for their CRMs. I'm 100% sure they are automating quite a bit. But if you think about like actual corporates or bigger businesses with hundreds of employees, man, they have such messy infrastructure and architecture. Like just harmonizing all of the data that they have to be able to build these automation systems, to build these agents, is incredibly complex. I mean, first, you really also need to understand how does your process fully work. So you would need to be able to do some process mining to understand how do the logs kind of connect to each other, or how do the apps connect to each other based on the logs that you have. And then you need to harmonize the data. Then you can finally build some stuff on top. I like also the previous answers because I was at Agent Summit a couple of weeks ago in Berlin, and someone asked a question while I was in the panel. He was like, "Hey, I work with a couple of police departments, and they really want to have some agents to be able to share information cross department, to be able to kind of interact way faster, get information faster, where you have like a custom model and you can kind of build your own ChatGPT interfaces with it. I know a bit different agents that we normally think about." And he was really struggling. Like first, he didn't even know where to start. He was like, "Hey, which agent framework would you recommend for this?" And I was like, "Man, definitely not the crypto ones. Like, there's no point for you to start with crypto. It just adds extra complexity. So just take something as lightweight as possible, preferably something like Python, some language that even an IT department and a police unit knows." And he was like, "Nah, that's already too much. They won't be able to." So they need this outside expertise, but then you also need to train your people on how to do it. You, as we just heard from Roland, they don't have GPUs. So for them to fine tune these models, that adds some extra complexity. So to get this deployed in the real world is actually quite complex.
Yeah, I would agree with a lot of what you just said because, like, from experience building different systems which are wholly agent powered. So we've actually already built several businesses that are literally entirely powered by agents. And very soon, you will realize that just a regular setup with a large language model will only be able to do so much, right? Like there's this whole slate um, of let's say very typical behavior that you might want from an agent, utilizing very typical and maybe unique data sets or just, yeah, maybe data sets or just information that is atypical for, like an LLM to process as a base model LLM, right? So then you would have to go into fine tuning. And then like once you already start to think about, hey, I need this agent that is like hyper specific and super good at taking this like random unstructured data that we are getting in through this pipeline and then structuring it and then categorizing it and then like, making it available to like other agents and they on their behalf start to propagate that information further. Like you're going to start walking into a direction that's pretty complicated, right? Because now all of a sudden it's not just like, oh, I have a system prompt, I have the master prompt, and I have like these sets of instructions within that framework that we use that depict the outcome of the agent's behavior and kind of like makes it consistent. Now you have to think about, all right, how am I going to organize and make the data available and properly organized and tagged and so on so that we can actually train on it. And then like, how am I going to train? Where am I going to get the GPU power from? What am I going to do if it doesn't work out? Like, like there's a very, very specific skill set that still a lot of people don't have. And there's not that many solutions that really simplify this process, which actually is a pretty good business model if you think about it, right? It's like, like just some fucking crazy engine that you can just like dump a whole shitload of data into, and then it would do the training and the organization and tagging and so on by itself. And then you just get a fine-tuned model that is as per your definition, right? So, but anyway, that is not really how it works, right? It's a pretty painstaking process to get an agent just right, and it takes effort and it takes money. I don't know what the cost of fine tuning an agent nowadays is, but I remember we were paying like $1,000, $2,000 every time we try and like tune it, a single agent, and then we have like 5,000 agents that we have to work on. So it becomes pretty complex, like pretty quickly.
Yeah, and also who's gonna do it? I mean, for you guys, it's kind of part of your core business to be familiar with agents, obviously. But in a non-crypto company, non-agent company, where you just actually want to use it for its utility, who in the company is supposed to be building these agents? Like, there's no chief automation officer, there's no head of agents, and I think we will see those. I think head of agents is the coolest job coming very soon. It's a title I would love to have, where you just are kind of the new HR department. You are controlling tens, maybe hundreds of agents that are doing things either autonomously or in swarms, or you kind of still have to be the final check. But still, like, these people do not exist in current companies. Someone might be automating their own workflow or parts of it just to save some time, but you don't have this like company-wide. At least I haven't seen it.
I actually read something today. It was an article, and it literally said the most searched for job is now at least like the most. I don't remember what exactly the metric was. It might have been the most wanted HR title is like automation, whatever, automation officer or automation manager, automation like chief of automation or something like that. It was funny that you mentioned it. I just read it like literally a few minutes ago before the space started.
Nice. I love this.
I think that we're pretty close to have a head of agent, and it will be an AI agent.
Yeah, exactly. I want. Go ahead.
Well, it must be AI agent because only AI can actually better understand AI. And AI agents are actually built and meant to work autonomously. So there's no point to put the human behind it unless you don't really trust the AI. So and I think such a role is actually being assumed now by CTOs like tech leads. So I'm not sure whether in the near future there will be really like a position in the company where you say, okay, you just come and manage AI because AI can manage themselves. And we are going to talk about A2A by Google and maybe some like MCPs in the past. So these are actually working fine by themselves. I think one of the main drawbacks too is because the executive in many companies don't really understand how this AI stuff works. And if you add cost to it, they just know, so they just step back. So people can maybe afford doing stuff on minimal scale, and then but when it goes to large scale and then there is cost involved, executives say no, we are not like into it unless processing this data or maybe streamlining some of the processes. You have a proof, you have an evidence that it will really optimize the whole workflow and even reduce costs for the company. If you have that upfront, maybe you can have a conversation with the CEO or somebody else. But if you don't have that, people are really reluctant because some people still believe that it is not mature enough. Actually, whereas some AI agents are actually doing like some incredible work, we are using AI agents at UXLink a lot already, especially in this year, 2025. Most of our marketing, engagement, comment, posting, and everything, it is primarily done by AI. Of course, not 100% yet, but it is mostly done by AI. So I think you will have to consider that way.
Can you make it maybe a bit more tangible? Like just pick one use case and explain like where you guys started to build the agent and what tooling it needs and how much human work is involved?
Okay, good. So that's a good question. As we actually specialize in mass adoption, we have one of the workflow at UXLink is actually the user onboarding. So you have users from existing social media like Twitter or X, or maybe from like Telegram. And when they join the UXLink ecosystem and you have to interact with a particular dApp, there's a whole process of onboarding where they have to link their X account. So if I take X for instance, they link their X account, and now once they join, behind the scene they have an on-chain address which is created for them, and then from there on now they can interact with some other dApps in the UXLink ecosystem using their social media account. And then wherever they like a post or maybe like a tweet or whatever task that has to be done. So by the way, we reward users based on what engagement or activity or contribution they have in the UXLink like ecosystem. So now tracking what every user is doing and how well they are, and how well they are contributing to the UXLink like ecosystem, like inviting some other users and stuff. All this has to be tracked, and it is actually better done by AI agents. So there's AI agent to be tracking you on various tasks. Agent to be tracking you on how active you are on different platforms. and then at the end you have a score, and then that score now has a reward. So most of these processes are actually being done by like AI agents. In the past, of course, it was being done manually because we had to really check a user as we're still trying to prove our model. We have to check a user, like take a user, you onboard somebody, and they will invite their friends, and then we see their social graph and see how well they are actually contributing to the UXLink like ecosystem. And then based on that, now we had like a formula to give them a score, right? And then, but this score wasn't optimal. With AI now, this score it is actually dynamic. So we have a lot of areas where where like AI is being used.
Yeah, that's a nice use case. I think it's also nice because like agents, they're able to take in this arbitrary data and then, for example, classify it. So like if you want to do stuff like, okay, well, we want to reward users based off the quality of their content, right? Like previously, you'd probably just look at some metrics, right? So you'd look at likes and shares and probably like how well they're following. The smart following, they call that nowadays, I believe, and who's interacting with it and so on, right? So it was a very vanity based and not really a we have, if you will, healthy way to kind of like objectively see how well content or how great sorry, this piece of content is. Now you plug in an agent and you say to this agent, hey, look, we're we're going to analyze this content. We want to see how positive it is, like what's it talking about, what was the actual ratio of interaction in terms of like the people that comment on it? Are they actually commenting on what's being said? Are they adding to the narrative and so on? Like there are so many factors and there's so many different matrices that you can create just by using like arbitrary data processing using like a singular agent, for example, right? So you can create these systems that are much more dynamic, especially when we're talking about arbitrary data. And I wanted to touch on three things which I heard Roland speak about and Marco briefly. The first thing I heard was that, which resonated with me, was that actually when we speak to a lot of businesses, so previously I incubated an agency, which was really early on. And this agency was reaching out to businesses, and the offer of the agency was, we are ready to let us know what kind of cost you're having right now for a certain workflow. We'll automate that workflow entirely using agents, and you'll just pay us that cost, like half of it every month. So we're giving you like a very clear offer. Just give us a workflow that you're using employees for and that you're using complicated systems for, and what you should disconnect it, and that's costing you $10,000 a month. We'll half the cost and we'll automate it entirely for you, right? And I think, I don't know exactly, but the agency reached out to like, I guess like 50,000 different businesses at least, because we had this whole automated outreach pipeline set up. And surprisingly, and I don't know how that changed now, but surprisingly, that was really early. That was like, I guess like 2 years ago when I was still with Delicium. Surprisingly, most of the answers that we got was, that's fucking unethical. We are not ready to replace our employees with robots. Like a lot of this kind of answers, and it had me cracking up. Like it was I had the privilege to have a brief reading of the filtered out commentary that we got back on email, which is very funny. It's like people are so yeah, a lot of people, especially when we're talking about medium-sized businesses, like businesses that are just run by families or just pretty tight groups of people. They don't really have interest in replacing their workforce. I think most people do have interest in lowering their cost, but yeah. Then there's also this interesting demographic dynamic thingy where I guess like um, if you look at what is the age group that is now running most business in the world? The age group is probably like pretty fucking old, like like what boomer and what is it, Gen X or something like that, right? Like those are the people that are still at the helm and that are going to be flipped pretty soon. And those people are probably going to be pretty resistant to adopting this kind of like very controversial new technology because they are still so tuned in with this traditional system of information, and they're still probably getting a lot of their information from more traditional channels, and they're following narratives on news, traditional news and so on. And then you have all of these like, like the this guild is striking, the writers guild is striking against AI agent adoption and this and that, like it's all pretty fucking negative. So I think it's gonna also be hard to change people's mind on this. And I would be really interesting to rerun that experiment, just reach out to the same 50,000 companies and then actually see, how their disposition changed over time. But I think it probably hasn't changed very drastically because there's a lot of turbulence in terms of AI, especially in the news, right? Like it's a lot of it's actually negative if you look at like the big news outlets. So yeah, and then the second thing which I wanted to mention is that our philosophy, because like we touched on a lot of problems, right? But I think that there's a very clear model, or there are very clear models that can become like proper businesses, that is going to allow for the proliferation and adoption for agent uh, agent technology, right? So the first thing that I really care about is accessibility in terms of how easy is it for me to build complex systems without having to understand anything at all. I don't want to understand about vector databases. I don't want to understand about RAG. I don't want to understand about multi-agent systems and how they're. I just want to be able to use my natural language and probably connect a bunch of apps and then build something, right? Like that is possible and that's what we're working on, but that's not the mode. Like I feel like a lot of these companies, especially in the Web2 space, which are great companies, don't get me wrong, that are now allowing people to build pretty complex multi-agent systems, they're still stuck in like the Zapier mindset where it's like all like chronological order and it's all like canvas style and this and that. It's too complicated, man. Like people people don't want to get into that, right? Like if you are an employee of a business and you want to get started with something, like the barrier to entry has to be so low and it has to be so efficient that it just becomes like a second nature, right? And then the last thing which I wanted to touch on, sorry, is like the mode of interaction with agents as people like generally perceive it right now is not actually what agents are supposed to be doing, in my opinion. People are talking to agents like they're talking to a person, but that whole like talking to a person thing, that doesn't have to happen, right? Like you can just create a multi-agent system and those agents, they just interact with your data and interact with each other and they feed information into a different whatever database or pipeline, or they even make it materialize into the real world. I don't know, maybe they create textbooks or children books or whatever the fuck they create. It doesn't matter. But you as a human, you have to understand that you don't have to be involved. You don't have to be involved. You need a way to manage the quality of the output, right? So you need a proper management structure and a management system, and you need to be able to have certain kind of like levers that you can pull. It's like when you're like, I don't know, maybe this is not something that resonates with everybody, but when you're making music in like a DAW, like a digital audio interface, and then you turn some knobs and you get a little bit less of this sound, a little bit more of that sound, a little bit more of this color, a little bit less of that color. It's like a very generative process because I'm just turning knobs and shit's happening, and eventually I'll figure out what's nice and what's not. But I don't have to be the person that is constantly deliberating with like a bunch of agents. Like, no, that's not the purpose of agent. That's not even the purpose of LLM. But we're so stuck in like having to sit behind our computer and talk to ChatGPT, which I think is dumb. Like that's not what you're supposed to be focused on.
I mean, it's no surprise that people are scared, right? And that they kind of try to stop this whole movement. I mean, and everyone that listens, that I'm also more on the Duma side of things. But also, it feels like we're making it scary on purpose. I was in New York and I finally saw this viral "Stop Hiring Humans" billboard. And even I was shocked for a second. I was like, holy shit, this sounds so scary. If you think about like the normal Web2 employee, man, they are way less tech familiar than we think. Like, yes, they do work on laptops, MacBooks. It feels tacky, but they're mainly using like mail, calendar. They're mainly in like Google Sheets, creating docs, doing Teams calls. They don't know anything about APIs. They don't think about agents like past ChatGPT. They wouldn't even ever consider this an agent. It's just like a new way to search for things and something very smart that brings you answers. But it's so far from like being techy. And I think people are just afraid, like they don't see the role that they can have in this future where agents can do most of the work. Because I do think you need to understand how it works to quite some degree to be able to oversee it and kind of value the output or rank it.
Yeah, but that's the problem. That's exactly the problem which I see now, and that's what we're trying to abstract away. So we're going to launch like a platform which allows people to use natural language to create multi-agent systems, and like we have it working already. It works pretty well. It's not ready to be released, but at least like the way for you to be able to deploy something should be just so rapid and so intuitive, and the way you manage that should also be as intuitive. It's like, okay, so how do you manage a business, right? Like you speak to your employees, you have a goal in mind, you go and speak to your employees and you say like to your marketing department, yo guys, like this poster is really not like on brand. You guys go sit down with the branding department and make sure that the outcome of the next couple of posters is going to be better. Like stick to our color, stick to our tagline, stick to this and stick to that, right? Like that's how you manage a business. So I believe that the way you should be managing your agent teams and crews is like almost exactly like that. It's like you have a feedback loop which is output, and in business your feedback loop is always output. Like, and your input is direction, right? Your input is aim, your input is goal, your input is insight, right? So I believe that is an optimal, ultimately that would be the optimal model. And probably that's going to look like something like you have like a terminal, and that terminal is like kind of like your personal assistant that gives you, whatever information you require to make decisions managing your employees. And now your employees are not humans, but your employees are just a bunch of agents.
But why do you think deployment and setup needs to be rapid? Like I used to do sales ops for a bit in a company because it was just it didn't work what they were doing, and it took me so much time to think through the processes, to understand them, to set up the automations in Zapier for all kinds of stuff. But then once it's set up, then it's fine. But I don't think you can really rapidize the setup or deployment.
Well, I sorry, Roland. I just want to answer Marco's question, and then let you speak.
Okay.
So my opinion. Here's how I look at it. So I can have an agent that can connect, my service with whatever I want. Let's say like I have an agent that creates Zapier workflows for me, and then I have an agent that connects those workflows with other agents, right? So now they have that communication protocol thingy, action protocol thingy. So like, why do I have to be the person that is going to do all of that shit manually? If you can just have an engine, or just like your engine is essentially a bunch of agents that can manage endpoints and databases. They can spin up database, whatever. They can code. It doesn't matter, man. But what your responsibility is, like, why does it take you to set up so long? Is it because you haven't planned it out A to Z, or it just takes a lot of time to work through all of the all of the different like technical things and different platforms you want to connect and so on. I think it's the latter, right? Because like the first thing, the first step is like, I'm going to define the system. I can do this using like a fucking like fig jam, and I can create like a flow chart of what has to happen A to Z. And that should be enough information already for an engine to be able to, orchestrate that, maybe to like 90% or something like that. Like that's possible. So why not, right? Like why should we even build a agent workflow builder that is like canvas based? What is the point of it if you can build something relatively easily that can manage everything for you, and then after that you can just come and edit shit?
I actually agree like 100% there because AI is relatively new, even though it is actually growing fast. It is relatively new. So if I want to encourage more people to adopt AI, it has to be simple. You can't require people to go and learn the basics of probability and all this stuff to understand all the fundamental of AI and how it's working. It would be like the longest and hardest way to go. The easiest way to go is to build tools that are intuitive enough for anybody to use, right? But just like in school, you won't force everybody to go and learn math. It has to be really easy. So you break it down for that people to be able to launch agents with a few clicks and not worry about even like deployment and stuff. So if you have an infrastructure that can already do that, it will actually drive adoption a lot. So look at cloud, right? When cloud was really coming in and people still had like some offsite kind of like data centers, it was a little bit hard for those first people to migrate to cloud because back then, so there was not good enough tool chain to go from on-site to cloud, right? And now all the cloud service providers have learned from that and have improved the whole process and making it easy for you to launch and easy like some easy to machine online and then start coding because the main objective here for you as a business, even as a developer employed in a business, is for you to be productive enough. If you are productive and you don't spend time upfront on things that do not really matter, then you will gain a lot. But if you have to start by learning first and then going deep and then understanding all the fundamentals, which is actually the best way if you want to go very far as as a developer or as a researcher. But if you just want to have business output, that is the longest way, and you need the shortest way. Also, which is you and also which is like using tools that are already built to streamline the whole process and making it easier for you to actually go from idea to product. So I think that's the way to go.
I also think that it's important now that we're having the conversation of multi agents, the data. Maybe it's pretty clear for everybody this, but I'm pretty excited for what is coming with the cross-agent communication because nowadays many AI agents are closed in terms like they are not open source, they manage their own data, even they have a marketplace. But I think like this new stage of AI that we are waiting, like the artificial generic interface. Intelligence, sorry. It's like this super computer that can solve everything. And I believe that this kind of technology will come with a swarm of agents that they are interconnected with everybody, agent to agent, and having these new conversations, automating this tools, tasks, everything, but connected each other using the information that they have. So I think that this is something important to keep in mind, and it's really interesting. I'm really excited to see this new era.
Yeah, I think one of the biggest barriers to large scale adoption in terms of like automated business, like completely automated business that is actually dynamic, as how to frame this. Let's say, okay, you have different types of businesses in the world, right? So you have, what we are mainly talking about is business that is like tech. right? And for tech to integrate agent is really pretty fucking easy because your outputs are kind of like defined by you, right? So okay, I want to have this output. It's like structured that way. It's like in JSON format. Like here are the attributes. Here are the parameters. Maybe here's an algorithm that we need to run this and that, right? So it's like kind of like replicable, and it's the same, and it works, right? So you kind of can debug this system relatively easily because you always expect a certain output, and if that output doesn't match what you have, then you can go in and you can see where it went wrong, and you can make an adjustment. That's one type of business, but the majority of the world is not run on that type of business. That is just information highway shit, right? Like we're like living in our phones 24/7. But a lot of the businesses are actually real businesses that are handling whatever, like truckloads of sugarcane, like bringing sugarcane to the sugarcane factory, and then and then making like sugarcane drinks and canning the drinks and managing the supply chain for distributing the drinks across the globe to the resellers, and then tracking whatever sales they make. Maybe it's like, they'll probably have a tax system for that. Like, I hope so. Otherwise, it would be a mess. But, it's like very human driven, machine driven still. And I feel kind of like um, those businesses to a certain degree can and should be automated. And those businesses will actually benefit the most from this automation through AI agents because humans are irrational beings. We are we are the majority of us are very emotionally driven. The majority of us are like the thinker prover concept. We think something and then we go out in the world to prove it, and it's like a confirmation bias that everybody's living off, and we're always victim. There's so many like tendencies and biases that are just majority of population just lives like by those default settings and never even second guesses whether that default setting is wrong or right. But agents don't have that. I'm not saying agents don't have bias, but agents can optimize systems like at like 1000x the capacity of somebody that doesn't have experience in optimizing systems or doesn't even think in systems, right? So what is my point here is that like this A2A protocol where my agent swarm and your agent swarm, or my agent and your agent, can actually do something meaningful together while representing two different parties with different interests, right? So you have a conflict here, and it creates a lot of kind of like different vectors of like attack, if you will, because like my agent probably has like a let's talk about international sales and purchases of flowers. Okay, so i'm I'm producing flowers somewhere in the world. You're buying and distributing flowers somewhere in the world. My agent objective is sell as much as they can at the highest price possible. Your agent's objective is buy as much as you can at the lowest price possible. That's a conflict of interest, right? So now all of a sudden we have to understand all of the attack vectors and the problems that can arise, such as prompt injection attacks, supply chain attacks, task delegation risks, and maybe like resource exhaustion task. And maybe there's like, I don't know, like model inversion attacks, like all of those like general attacks that are now possible to be used to confuse like um, large language models and so on. And then obviously there's this need for zero trust in A2A when the parties are not supposed to just like like be happy and grab each other's hand and run off in the sunset. Like, no, business is different, man. Business is hard. Like, your agent is gonna try and fuck my agent, and my agent is gonna try and fuck your agent, and somebody's gonna come out on top, and somebody's gonna come out on the bottom.
You mentioned an interesting word when you start this conversation, dynamic. And I think that now we need to talk about like model drift because this is something that is happening, but maybe we are not aware about this. Like model drift happens when an AI model that initially performs well, it starts to degrade over time because the environment, data, human behavior, everything can change. So the model needs to be retrained, and we need to have different like implementations about continuous audits, use automated monitor systems to detect anomalies, but mainly focus on retrain the way that we well, retrain regularly with real-time and updated data.
Go ahead, Marco.
I just want to interrupt you because I always promise anyone joining the space that there will be a chance to join the stage, to ask questions, to teach us something new. Maybe you can show us how you have implemented an agent. So anyone that has something cool to share, that wants to join the speaker panel here, please request speaker. Yannick will check and let you in. As always, no shilling, no screaming, but I would love to hear some others. And until then, obviously, keep continuing the discussion.
Yeah, and if it's questions, just like raise your request speaker, and I'll accept you. But do wait for your turn to speak. Yeah, Louis. Yes, you're right, man.
Yeah, I think that it's something that we need to keep in mind, but maybe we can talk about this in another conversation because I guess that model drift is a really interesting topic about the AI agent world, agent to agent, and so on.
Yeah. Yes. Roland, you wanted to say something?
Yes, so I think talking about the AI agent to agent protocols or like communication, I think there is a market there, there's need there. Beside the risk, of course, you have named the risk. There are various risks into actually using AI agents, but I believe those who expose their agents to be used by other parties, those actually have to do the work of securing the agent or maybe giving permissions or like red lines where it should not cross. Because if you don't do that, they might actually use your agent to run your business. So I believe those who will be exposing those agents to like to be used by some third party, they must work on the security aspect of it. But beside that, I feel there's some added value where instead of you building all the agents with like different capacities, you can just involve some other agent built by some other company so like to do part of the task and then give it back to your own agent to actually continue. So the idea itself is good. As Google was actually starting, it was a good idea, and there's a good backing going on now. But as think it is only built and actually developed by people who have enough in-house resources to see how things can actually work. Even though there are some SDK for those agents to actually streamline the whole building process, but it requires a lot of like development effort, like specialized team on this A to A kind of environment and how they can communicate what can be used, what cannot be used. So if you actually compare that to what Anthropic developed, which was the like MCP, that was the model concept protocol, the model context protocol. So that one was relatively easier and with less risk because it was only accessing tools, and you, the developer, could actually define what tool can be used or what service can be accessed by that agent. So it was a little bit like simpler. But if you allow agents to communicate with other agents, and if they have to discover themselves, this is actually risky because you don't know what the agent can do and who they can be communicating with and how they be reacting. If it's not supervised, it can actually be really, really risky. Meaning that you who are building your own agent to actually get input from some other agents, you really have to make sure that input is the way you want. It is actually complying with a certain format, with some like with a certain payload or some attributes. Everything is fine before you can actually inject it into your own workflow. Uh, but beside that, the whole idea is good, but I don't know how far and how well this is so like how well and how far this is going to go. We still have to observe because it's only been like a few months, right?
Yeah. Yeah, you're right. There's so much to innovate, and there's so much to regulate. I don't mean regulate by governments, but kind of like regulate operations and especially, like I will keep coming back to like the management of things. Like how are your clusters handling payments? Like what are the limits there? Who is responsible and so on, and how do you manage? In the example that I gave, the buying and the selling, like how you're actually managing that. Yeah, and how can you integrate these systems into your existing business, right? Like, I think actually now, from experience, I can say that building a new business entirely built by AI agents, it's much easier than building an agent team to integrate with your current business. It's much easier. Why is DJ? Hey man, what's up, man? Like, please let us know what's on your mind.
Oh, hey guys. Well, I just wanted to share a different angle on AI that a lot of people are not thinking about when using LLMs, because people are still using it like a really fancy Google search. For me, I use ChatGPT as like a second brain, something I call AI symbiosis. It's not just prompt in, answer out. It's an ongoing, evolving collaboration where the AI actually learns how I think, how I speak, what I value, what my mission is, like this one with Swarm Network. So when I'm jumping into a space like this, ChatGPT is already primed. It helps me craft what I say, sharpen ideas in real time, and even capture the vibe of the room. It's like having a strategist, editor, analyst, and co-founder all in one, but built around me, not just general knowledge.
Yeah, I think like that is ground zero. That is what we are living now. That's ground zero of integrating AI and especially large language models into our lives, right? And really using it as a kind of like what I almost would like to um think is that like an LLM can almost become your second conscious or your second brain. And if it does learn about you and who you are, and you need to be careful with that, obviously, like, because like, like we've had this conversation before where I see too many people that are just like letting like an LLM literally at least online, like decide what they write and what they say and how they say it and this and that. They're just like, oh, answer this message for me, and I don't like it, like, and then they get like a fucking like A4 size text, and then post that into the group chat, for example, or post that into an email, or like use that to send it to their coworkers. And like, I think that doesn't really work. But if you can use it so that it contributes to your internal processes in terms of like deliberation with yourself and thoughts, but also probably like research, or maybe even, like what I've been doing lately is I've been scheduling Manas to give me like, instead of me having to go to Twitter and to go and read the news and so on, it's just like, hey, this is what I'm really interested in. I want to know what's been published on this, whether it's like papers or articles or blogs, it doesn't matter. Just go and find it for me, like these topics every single day. Just want to read about this. I don't want to read anything else. I don't want to be watching stupid videos. I don't want to be seeing a random Elon Musk and Trump tweets. Like, I don't want to see that. Like, what I want to see is I want to see the things that I value. So I think that is indeed like a very valuable ground zero. But that's just ground zero, in my opinion, right? Like, that is what everybody eventually will probably inevitably be doing. And because like it makes you so efficient if you know how to handle it, but it also indeed does make you so dumb if you don't know how to handle it. Yeah, continue.
You just spoke on exactly the thing that I was going to touch on. I've seen many articles recently about ChatGPTs making people dumber and all this stuff, and this is totally false. ChatGPT and LLMs amplify what you already are. If you want to be smarter, if you want to be successful, it will help you do that. If you want to be complacent and just be comfortable in what you're doing, it will also assist you with that. It's just an amplified mirror of who you actually are as a person. And you have to be very vigilant with your custom instructions, with your memory entries, and keep on top of it and make sure it's always aligned with what you truly want to have put out there. And never just put out your first response that you get. Your prompts should be paragraphs long in very full detail. And you should analyze every single thing that it says as a response instead of just copy and paste. And it's people that are using ChatGPT and LLMs in that way, where they just put in a simple prompt and they paste whatever answer they get back. And that's what the majority of people are doing. So that's what's giving AI a bad name. And it's really frustrating for people that, like me, that take it very seriously. And I spent years training LLMs. You know, I didn't know who I was training because it's done through a third party and it's private, but I know how these things are trained. I know what they work with, what they think like. So I have an advantage, but people saying AI are making people dumber are just ignorant to the fact that it's just amplifying who that person is that's using the AI. Because I've accomplished incredible things with AI with proven success, like with receipts. So I'm super excited about AI and also the agent builder program from Swarm Network.
It might be ignorant, but I definitely do get where they're coming from. Like, I keep now asking things where I before would have just opened up a sheet to calculate something. So I'm becoming definitely quite a bit dependent on it, on having instant access to this really impressive intelligence. I mean, obviously, you're right that it is kind of leveling us up incredibly. Like, everyone can now do pretty much anything. But I do really feel the sentiment of getting dumber. Like, lots of the stuff where I would have to fire up my brain, I don't do it anymore. I just ask ChatGPT. I kind of double, triple check. I do, as you suggest, write quite a bit of paragraphs as my input. But still, the output is not generated by me. It's not generated by me thinking through the actual problem. It's rather describing the problem as good as I can.
I think that is actually not really a problem because, all right, so how do you build a bigger business? Well, you have different types of leverages, points of leverage. You have time, you have money, right? And then you have people. And you only have time and you might have some money, but that's limited. But you can exponentially increase your output by actually letting other people do the work that you don't want to do or you don't have to do per se, right? So if you already think that you are able to speed up something by just asking ChatGPT for doing it, let's say like, oh, I have this like data, I want to put it in a table and then like make some formulas and whatever, right? Or like do your financial statement or something like that. It's like, yeah, like if you would have the financial capacity and willingness to pay somebody to do that for you, isn't that the same as letting ChatGPT do it? But that's how I look at it, at least.
I mean, yeah, but that one is like business productivity. The other thing is like actual human, in a sense, intelligence, the way we can on our own process tools. Like, imagine a crazy blackout. Can you now do the same things that you could do pre-GPT? That's kind of how I'm
Yeah.
thinking about it.
Yeah, in that sense, you're right. If you become over reliant on it, right? Like if you're just like, if you're just passing on like inputs that you receive to ChatGPT, and then you're passing the output back to whatever you're dealing with, right? Like, and that's all you do, then obviously, yes, you're gonna become pretty dependent on it. And I think that you're gonna become less smart over time, or at least I don't want to say you become dumber, but you're not realizing your potential. So I also like to remind myself, for example, and Wise, he just touched on it as well. It's like, okay, so if I try to figure out, okay, so first things first, Like you cannot assume that ChatGPT or matter of fact any LLM is always right. As a matter of fact, they're more often quite wrong. Actually, like they still like hallucination. Even though people don't talk about it, is still a massive problem in base models. And now, yes, okay, you have like agentic search and so on, and becomes a lot more accurate and so on. Also correct. Also correct. But you cannot assume that even the information that is retrieved from the internet is correct, right? So there are so many different factors and different influences that can skew, whatever information which is received by this LLM, right? So it's not true. It's not ground truth. Like people just assume that, oh fuck, I'm talking to the super intelligent, everything is correct. No, like you have to assume that as if you were talking to somebody else. Like not everything is correct. It's like when I'm talking to somebody, I'm gonna be hella skeptical, and I'm gonna be like, okay, I have to verify this information. I have to realize this by myself. That's the first base. And the second base is how do you actually go through a problem? How do you think through something? Um, well, you can talk. You usually talk to yourself, right? Like you have some narrative in your head. It's like, oh, what should I do next? How am I going to solve this problem? Okay, well, how should I not solve this problem? You can inverse it, and you can find a path forward, and then you have a couple of like subtopics you want to explore or sub questions, right? So if you treat your conversation with an LLM in the same way, where you can go deep, where you can have an engaging conversation, and you can actually question information and fact check and so on, and yeah, I think then you're actually using it to become smarter, right? But yeah, Marco, you're right too. Yeah, definitely. Go ahead, guys. I'll give everybody one more round to speak, and then we're gonna call it a day. I think people are pretty tired. People are dropping off already, so make it count.
Real quick, I just want to say the analogy I use is like treat LLMs like Wikipedia, right? It's a good place for information, but it can be wrong. And also, what you can do is compare your results to other LLMs, send it back and forth from one to the other, and say, "Is this right?" And even question your own LLM. I don't think you're right. I want you to prove me that this is correct. Question, be skeptical to your LLM, and if you have the right mindset, you can get the results you're looking for. That's all. Thanks, Yannick.
So just quickly, I will just say that at the beginning of this page, we were actually asking ourselves, why isn't the whole world deploying AI agents? There's also another question saying, why isn't the whole world so using AI agents the way they are supposed to be used? Because many people use AI agents and people use AI, and people use like ChatGPT, but they just use it the way they want to use it, but the easiest way, intuitive to them, and most people are actually lazy. They will take like a one sentence or like a few word kind of question or prompt and then dump it into ChatGPT and then expect a response that looks there, that looks like theirs. So my advice is actually to treat AI and AI agents or even ChatGPT like a smart kid. So it has limited knowledge. It is very smart. It can give answers quickly. It can actually process them the way you want and give you the format that you want. But so you have to remember that it is still a kid, even though it is a smart kid. So that's my analogy on this one.
Hey, and I want to finish my participation with my personal feedback about AI and also productivity because I heard that some of you guys mentioned this, and I personally I really love like how can I become more productive using different techniques like for example Pomodoro. I'm pretty sure that many of you have used this technique, but the core idea is like the human brain needs to rest. If you want to focus more than 1 hour for example, it's not possible for your brain to stay focused and you need to rest. These limitations are not tied to the AI technology. It's something that maybe we don't have in mind, but it's happening because we can use these toolings 24/7. And what's like the basic concept of AI? It's basically how can we make the computers can be intelligent as a human. And the neural networks, which is the base of the artificial intelligence when we train a model, they are based on the neurons, right? And we have limitations as a human, but the technology don't. And it's something really important and really amazing to use because we are now better. Even just using for a simple prompt that can be good or not. It depends on your input and it depends on the information on the internet. But this is a really super powerful power. Yeah.
Yes, indeed. Well, thank you everybody for joining us today. We're over time. It was a really nice conversation. I had a lot of fun. Really nice panel. Unfortunately, our friends from Fetch couldn't join, but we'll have